yourself to the presentation. So, just a
You
revision
can
of
begin.
what we did last time. We spoke about pressure. Can anyone tell me what is pressure? Everyone, I want you all to answer. Uh, Please do not type anything in the message column. You can speak directly. Uh, yeah,
Ma'am, can
last
I?
time we spoke about force and pressure. Who will give me a brief of what is force and pressure?
Force per unit area.
Okay,
Ma'am,
that is pressure. Okay. Can anyone give me some kind of example related to pressure? How we define pressure?
ma'am, on an acupuncture ball, ma'am, because when we try to squish it, if you see that it tries to like uh, free itself.
Okay, how did you explain pressure out there?
Ma'am, because ma'am, I'm not talking about the normal one. I'm talking about the one which has like a liquid in it and with like a net type of thing around it. So when you apply pressure on it, the since it's
So,
liquid, it tries to come out of the net pieces.
how do you explain pressure in this? How will you give me example of pressure? You are telling me you're applying pressure. I'm telling you to give me example of pressure.
Good morning, ma'am.
Ma'am, what have we done till now?
Whoever joins late, kindly don't ask such questions. Join 5 minutes earlier to the class. Come on, who will give me examples of pressure?
Ma'am, pressing on a pillow creates pressure.
Okay, but can you give me like, can you explain me? See, is this going to be more than enough if some you have to explain somebody about pressure? Pressing on a pillow. Pressing on a pillow is force. Pressing on a pillow is force. How can it be pressure?
Ma'am, pressure is actually when we are applying force
Ma'am, the example for pressure is when we pop the balloon with our finger, it won't pop, but if we pop, then it will pop.
Yes, correct. See, this is a correct kind of an example. So you are applying force with the correct area. If you're applying force with your entire hand, the entire tip of your finger is pretty much larger as compared to the tip of a pin. So the force that you're applying on both the times is same. You're applying same force with your hand also and with the pin also, but the area applied in case of the pin is very small, so the pressure out there increases more and the ball and the balloon will pop out very easily. Okay,
Ma'am, automobile tires.
don't give me random examples, please give me proper examples. Okay, explain and give me examples. Will this be sufficient to explain in an exam? Pressure example or automobile tire, pressure example pressing on a pillow? No, give me
Ma'am,
examples.
forcing air into an automobile tire would be like pressure.
No, forcing air. You are saying you're forcing air into a tire, so you're applying force out there. How did pressure come into the picture then?
I mean, when you're putting too many molecules, the air gets compressed.
No.
Ma'am,
Where did number of molecules come into the picture? Yes.
ma'am, when you go too deep in water, ma'am, the water pressure starts ma'am, a can. If you put a can too deep in water, like in the sea, if it's gone too deep in the water, it will squeeze and get crushed
Why?
due to water pressure.
How?
Ma'am, because ma'am, because when the can is so deep in water, I mean, because when it's just at the surface, there is almost no pressure on it. But as it goes down, the pressure of the pressure and weight of the water keeps on increasing on the can, and at one point it just gets squished and crushed.
Ma'am, at the surface, there isn't enough, the water molecules aren't compressed enough. So the deeper you go, the more compressed they get.
See, you all are giving me examples, but you all are not able to properly explain it in terms of pressure. Pressure, we told, is depending on two quantities. It is depending on force also, and it is depending on area also. Okay. So you have to explain in terms of force per unit area. So if you are explaining that you are at the surface sea level, the force per unit area acting on you at a sea level is very less because there is only air molecules on above you. So if there is only air molecules above you, the force per unit area on you is very less. As you're going deep in water, the force per unit area increases because along with the force of the air, now there is also force of the water also. So there is force of air plus water acting on your body, on yourself, or on the can, whatever you're speaking about, and that is increasing the pressure. So whenever you talk about pressure, you always talk about force per unit area. You just don't talk about area, or you just don't talk about force. You have to talk about both the things together. If you talk only about force, then it is force. Okay, but if you're talking about force per unit area, then you talk about pressure. Am I clear?
Yes,
Yes, ma'am.
Yes,
Okay.
ma'am.
Now we spoke about pressure. First of all, we spoke about force. Okay, we spoke about what is force. Force is a push or a pull, and then we spoke about all the types of forces: contact force, non-contact force. We spoke about balance, unbalanced force. If there is balanced force, there will be no resultant. Anything will happen. It will become zero. If there is an unbalanced force, then there will be some work done in the direction where there is less force, means the force will come from the other side, the opposite side, which is more. Okay, then we came to pressure. Pressure is force per unit area. So that is why we always say for pressure, the unit is Newton per meter square, because Newton is the unit for force and meter square is a unit for area. So it will be Newton per meter square. The other name for this entire thing is also called as Pascal, because it was discovered by Blaise Pascal, the scientist. Then we spoke that pressure are of two types. One is atmospheric pressure and one is liquid pressure. When I'm talking about atmospheric pressure, I'm talking about the pressure being exerted by the air around us. Okay, so that is why it is called as atmospheric pressure. And we saw that how when we go from the sea level, as we go above towards the mountain, the 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 layer of air is reducing as we are going above and above, right? When we are near to the earth's surface, the air is rich in a lot of molecules. So here the force per unit area is definitely more. As we're going above and above means we go towards the mountains, the force per unit area reduces. Opposite to that, if you go below in the sea, there the force per unit is increasing because there is force per unit area acting of the atmosphere as well as of the liquid also. Okay, so this is how we spoke. Now we're going to speak about liquid pressure. What is liquid pressure? Liquid pressure is the pressure exerted by any liquid on the container, on any kind of container, whatever the liquid is exerting pressure, that is called as the liquid pressure. Okay, so now if you can see, there are three examples given. In the first, there is P1, second there is P2, third there is P3. Okay, and you can see as per the quantity of the liquid, the pressure is decreasing or increasing. So if there is less quantity of water, the pressure is less, and if the quantity of water is more, the pressure is more. So P1 is lesser, P3 is the maximum, and P2 is in between. Now you'll ask me, what is this that is dipping in the water? This kind of an instrument is called as a hydrometer. Hydrometer. The word is hydrometer. Okay, a hydrometer will consist of some kind of liquid inside it, which is very, very dense. Probably it may contain a liquid like mercury. Okay, depending on there's a mechanism how it works, and that will show you the pressure. So you can see above there is a meter that will show you the pressure. So there is a hydrometer which helps us to gauge the pressure also. There's another instrument which we'll be seeing now further on, that is called as a manometer. Okay, I'll explain you how that works. Okay, so liquid pressure, we are talking about liquid pressure. Only I will be typing, nobody else will be typing. Okay, nobody else will be typing. Please, next. This is called as a YouTube manometer. What is a YouTube manometer? A YouTube manometer will help us to judge the pressure. Okay. Now this pressure is dependent on it is called YouTube because it is in a YouTube. You can see it is in a form of a YouTube. Okay, it is in a form of a YouTube, and in between there is a scale given. Okay, there's a scale given which marks, there will be markings on it, like 1, 2, 3, 4 markings on it will be there. Okay, and it is normally filled with a liquid. With some kind of a liquid it will be filled. Depending on how advanced your YouTube manometer is there, the liquid will be filled according to that form. Okay, now the liquid will adjust itself according to the pressure that is being applied on it. So this YouTube manometer, as you can see in the photograph, the actual one, what is there on one side, it is cocked. On one side it has been cocked with a rubber cork, and the other side it will be attached to a pipe which will be attached to some kind of a funnel. Like how we have a stethoscope, there will be some kind of a funnel or a stethoscope. Okay, now whatever pressure that stethoscope or that kind of a funnel is experiencing, the liquid in the manometer will change its position up or down. So it will go up probably to a level of say 10, 3, 2, 1, and then you check how much it has gone up and down, and you calculate what is your pressure. Okay, so this is how a YouTube manometer works. We make it in our lab also. You can make it very easily. Not necessary to have a glass assembly. You can make it out of a small thin transparent pipe. You need a transparent pipe so that you can see the flow of the liquid. Okay, so this can be done very easily. Okay, so this is what is a YouTube manometer. Next. Now there are certain characteristics of liquid pressure. Liquid pressure will have certain properties which remains the same. Like how we studied properties of reflection of light, we studied properties of characteristics of solid, liquid, gases, all the things. So that same way liquid pressure has certain properties that it follows. The first property says that the liquid pressure will increase with the depth. As you go more below the water level, the water level at the highest point will have less pressure. But as you're going more deeper in the water, the water level will increase. For that very simple example, and the photograph is shown there, the first bottle with 3 holes at different depth of itself. So the first hole is near to the surface, the second hole is in between, and the third hole is near the bottom of the bottle. Okay, what can you see that the water is pouring out of it? Okay, now the water pouring out of the first hole that you can see is having very less pressure. That's why it is falling very near to the bottle. Can you see that the first hole is falling very near to the bottle?
Yes, ma'am.
The second hole is falling little bit more above that, more further to that, and the third one is the one with maximum pressure. It is falling very far away from the bottle. So this is what I call as pressure. Okay. So as I'm going from up to down, the pressure is increasing. So pressure increases with depth. Okay. First thing, if I take a particular given point, if a particular given height, if I take, okay, so for that you can see the last picture, the right side picture. You can see that there are 3 holes at same level, but they are round the bottle on the third picture. Okay, here you can see that the pressure is coming out same. So at a particular depth, the pressure will be same. Okay, at one particular level, the pressure will be same. Okay, third point, the pressure will depend on the density. It depends on the density. If there is more density, how will the pressure vary? If there is less density, how the pressure will vary? So with different liquids, the densities, the pressure will be different. So if in case you have done this same experiment with a bottle with a hole, and in one bottle you fill it with water, in one bottle you fill it with say oil, so you know oil is less denser than water, you'll observe that the one that is with more density, what will happen with more density and what will happen with less density. Okay. Third point, in a container that is closed, in a container that is closed, the liquid pressure exerted will be same on all the sides. The one in the in between, the liquid pressure acts in all the directions. That is in a closed container. Okay, in a closed container, if you press it, it is like a piston. There are all different holes. You will see that liquid pressure is acting at all the directions. Okay, and a liquid pressure will seek its own level. Okay, a liquid seeks its own level. So if supposing you have liquid of different, you have got you have got different containers of different length and different shapes and whatever, but the liquid will seek its own level and the liquid will come to one level in all the containers. Okay, so these are the 5 characteristics of a liquid pressure. Any doubt with this?
No,
Okay,
Oh,
no,
ma'am.
ma'am.
next. Okay, now we'll speak about Pascal's law. Okay, so Pascal was the person who discovered about pressure and he gave the law. He says that if pressure is applied anywhere in a liquid, it is transmitted equally in all the direction. Transmitted word means that it is passed. So if in one place I'm applying pressure, in one place I'm applying pressure in probably one container, and if that container is connected to another container through some pipe or something, okay, then the pressure will pass through the pipe to the other container and it will be the same pressure. So let's say I'm applying a pressure of 10 Newton per meter square on one container and I'm passing that pressure to some other container through a pipe, then the pressure that is being applied there in that other container will also be 10 Newton per meter square. For this, I'll give the example of the tire. Someone gave the example of tire. So you are going to adjust the whenever you go to fill the tire pressure, the person will always adjust the pressure in that machine. He'll always adjust and he'll write it as 32 or 30, or if you're going on a bike, he will adjust it to 28 or 34, depending on the vehicle make. So what will happen is that same pressure is going to go into your tire through the tube that is connected. So that entire machine will build up a pressure of say 32, and that 32 pressure will be transmitted to your tire. So your tire will also contain 32 pressure.
Farida,
Huh?
Farida, your voice is breaking in between. I don't know if it's for me or for others also.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am, your voice is.
No, ma'am, your voice is clear.
No, ma'am, your voice is not breaking. It's clear.
No, ma'am, your voice is not breaking.
Okay. Okay, I'll again repeat it. I'll again repeat the tire example. When you're going to fill up air in your tires, the person who's filling up the air in the tire will adjust the pressure in the machine, and that pressure will be transmitted to your tires. When it is transmitted to your tires, it will be the same pressure that you will see in the tires, and that is transmitted through the pipe that is connected to your tire. Okay, so that tire is connecting that pressure, and that same pressure will happen there. So this is called as Pascal's law. If you are applying pressure in one place, and if there is a connection for it to go to another place, the pressure that it will transmit and that other place will also be the same. Okay, is my voice better now?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Okay, next. So now this is exactly a very good instrument for understanding Pascal's law. Okay, here you can see on the left side the video. Okay, when I'm applying force on one end, means I'm applying force per unit area. Okay, that as per the unit area, if I'm applying force on the first piston, the other piston is going up. Why? Because the pressure that I applied on piston 1 is being transmitted to the piston 2, and because of that the piston 2 is going up. Now if I'm pressing the piston 2 down, the force that is coming on piston 2 is passing to the piston 1, and that is going up. Okay.
Ma'am, I have a question.
Ask.
Ma'am, what will happen if I apply both sides? I apply pressure.
Nothing will happen. It will not
Ma'am,
work
nothing
on
will
you.
happen.
It can't work. It will burst.
Okay.
Okay. Now, what is the difference between the first picture and the second picture? Who can tell me that?
Ma'am, in the first pictures, there are some
What, ma'am?
pistons used for pressure. Ma'am, in the first picture, there are pistons used for pressure, and
See, there is a difference between the picture 1 and picture 2. Who can tell me that?
ma'am, I think in the first picture, ma'am, I think in the first picture, it's like if you use force in if you use like pressure in one place on one piston, then the other piston will go up. And the second picture is there are just two syringes used for pressure.
Hello? Hello?
Yes, ma'am.
Am I audible?
Yes, ma'am.
I Amrush is trying to say something. I can't hear him.
Ma'am, people are unmuting Amrush, so he's not able to talk.
Yes, ma'am, you asked that what is the difference between the two pictures? Ma'am, I think in the first picture, it's like if you use pressure or force on one piston, the pressure will build up by the second piston and it will go up. Ma'am, but in the syringes that won't happen.
Hello.
Hello,
Hello?
Ma'am, you're mute.
Hello?
Ma'am,
ma'am, you're mute.
Ma'am, I think someone have muted you.
No, the notification hasn't come.
Ma'am, River muted me. Hello, ma'am. Can you unmute yourself?
Hello.
Yes, ma'am.
ma'am, you
Ma'am,
Yes, ma'am.
someone muted you.
Ma'am, you are not speaking anything.
Okay, I was speaking. It was not getting fast. Okay.
Oh,
Now am I visible? Now am I sorry audible?
Yes,
yes,
ma'am.
ma'am.
Yes,
Ma'am,
ma'am.
you are not visible.
Yeah. Okay. So okay, I was asking what is the difference between picture one and picture two?
Ma'am, in picture one, they have used pistons to show the pressure. And ma'am, in picture two, it has shown that it is done with the help of syringe.
Okay. Consider that point. Let's consider those syringes a piston only. What else?
Ma'am, in the first picture, if force or pressure is applied in one area, the pressure will build up below the other piston, which will push it up.
Hmm.
And in the syringes, it will almost be the same, but I'm not getting the difference there, ma'am.
No, no. See carefully. Come on. Come on, come on. If I show a if I show a small girl, say 5, 6 years, she will also say
Ma'am,
small child. Hmm.
ma'am, the pictures are same. Only in the difference is that the on this in the second picture there are syringes which act as pistons, but in the
No,
first
no,
picture
no,
there are
no,
only
no, no,
pistons.
no, no, no. There
Ma'am,
is one more difference. One more difference. Come
ma'am,
on,
ma'am, the
identify.
pressure is less in the second picture than in
No,
this
no, no,
picture.
no, 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 no.
ma'am,
Ma'am, the
the
shape of
And the
the
size of
picture
the
is
cylinders are
different.
different.
syringe is
Yes, correct. Size of the syringes on the pic on that is different, and on the first the size is same. In the first, the size is same of both the pistons. In second picture, the size is different. So now,
Ma'am, who told it?
it doesn't matter. Now, what happens is that here, when both the syringes are working, okay, there'll be a difference in the force. The area is differing, so the force will differ because pressure is remaining the same. Pressure is remaining the same. What will differ is the force. So let's consider in the first piston, the big one on the right side, the big one. In the right picture, the first piston on the left side is big and the right side, the piston is smaller. If on the first side, the area is more, if the area is more, how will the pressure be sorry, if the pressure is same on both the sides, how will the force be? The force will be more or the force will be less?
Ma'am, the force will be less if the area is more.
So if supposing I'm saying that there is a force of 10 pascals, sorry, pressure of 10 pascals, and the area in the first piston is 5. Area in the first piston is 5. So what will the force be? Force will be pressure multiplied by area. So force will become 10 multiplied by 5, that will be
50.
50. If
Ne-
I go to the second one, the force out there, we are trying to find out. The area is less. Let's say the area is 2 out there. Okay. So if supposing I want to find out, pressure is going to remain the same. That is Pascal's law. Pascal's law says that the pressure is going to remain same. So there the pressure is again 10. So it will be force is equal to pressure multiplied
Pressure
by
multiplied by
area.
area.
That will be 10 multiplied by 2. So there the force will be 20.
20, ma'am.
Correct? So now use this to your application by applying less force. If I'm putting less force on the small piston, I can pass the same pressure on the big piston and I can get more work done. I can get more force coming up. So my more work will be done. Understood? So you have to always have, you by applying less force, you can multiply it into lot many times of force by using this system of hydraulics. This is what is called as hydraulics, the Pascal's law. This is what we are using in hydraulics.
I didn't understand how hitting the small piston or the big piston will matter.
Okay, we'll see it. Next, go to the next slide. I just explained it here. Okay, on both the ends, the pressure is going to be the same. Okay, but if there is less area, the pressure, the force required will be less. If there is more area, the force required will be more. So in the left picture you can see I am trying to move the entire car through the entire system of this Pascal's law. Only a man standing on that area with a less area piston can move the entire car.
Because there is less area, so there's more pressure. So on that.
No, force. Ma'am, if there is going to be less area, there should be more force. And ma'am, because the car's area is more, its force will be less.
No.
So according,
Less area, less force. Less area, less force. More area, more force. Pressure is the same. Pressure is just a ratio. Pressure is just a ratio between force and area. So if on the left side, see, I want you all to write down. If you've got pens and pencils, write down. Okay, write down. Pressure is equal to force upon area. Write down. P1 is equal to F1 upon A1. If anyone is writing, please write down. P1 is equal to F1 upon A1. P1 is equal to F1 upon A1. Okay. Let's consider you are calculating how much force the man is applying. Okay. So now you'll write F1 is equal to P1 into A1.
Ma'am, can you please repeat the formula? I wasn't able to hear it.
Okay. So you will write uh, uh, P1 is equal to F1 divided by A1.
Okay, ma'am.
Okay. Now you are trying to find out F1. You're trying to find out the force that is being applied by the man. Okay. So F1 is equal to, you cross multiply, no? You will get P1 multiplied by A1. Is this getting cleared? Is this making
yes,
sense?
ma'am.
Okay.
Yes,
So
ma'am.
now your force 1 that is being applied by the man is going to be pressure into area. I said let the pressure be 10. Okay. So your force 1 will be equal to 10 multiplied by the area of that place where that man is standing is just 2. So that is going to become 20. Okay, so by giving only less force, the pressure that is being transmitted to the place where the car is there, the piston where the car is there, the pressure is going to go same. Pascal's law. Pascal's law say that the pressure is going same. Is this getting clear or no?
Yes, ma'am.
Is there a doubt in this?
No, ma'am.
Ma'am, I have a
Ma'am, because we have studied that less the area, more the pressure, so basically that's the same thing.
Less the area, more the pressure. Ah, no, 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 no. These are two different. These are happening at two different pistons. They're happening at two different pistons. Forget that. Forget that less area, more whatever you heard. Forget that. Listen to this now. First thing. Please stop copying and doing what I'm writing. I'm writing it in the message group. Please don't copy it again. Okay. Now the force that the man is applying is 20 newtons. The man is applying a force of only and only 20 newtons. But the pressure that he's transmitting towards the car is the same. So the pressure is going to remain as 10 pascals. 10 pascals is what he's going to transfer to the car. To the car, he is transferring the same pressure. Now we'll consider the force that because of which the car is going up. So that you'll consider F2. F2 will be same. Pressure 2 multiplied by area 2. But correct? But now pressure force 2 will be considered as pressure 2. What is pressure 2? Pressure is going to remain the same, no? That is going to be 10 pascals. So
Yes,
10
ma'am.
pascals multiplied by, I said let the area where the car is there be 5. So then here it will become 50. Is this going into your head or no? I don't know.
yes, ma'am. Got it.
Yes, ma'am. Ma'am, totally nicely.
I can only hear yes of 3-4 people. Where are the others? Where are the other 18 people saying yes or no?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
So
Yes, ma'am.
considering that my pressure is same everywhere, by changing my area, I can change the force. Okay, so that is how I use by applying little of force also I can move big things. That is exactly what is your Pascal's law. Very important, and that is what is used in your hydraulics. Hydraulics is based on Pascal's law, which says that you have a closed system, okay, where you have one end and you have the second end. You have got two pistons. One piston will be small where you're applying the force that will be very less area, so the force that you're applying is very less, but the place that the is passing the pressure to, that area will be very large. So the force nearly gets multiplied out there because the pressure is going there same. So because of that, you can, with very less weight, you can move big things. That is what is your hydraulics principle. That works
Ma'am,
in all the hydraulics objects.
ma'am, will it work if I make in the first picture? I make the first pistons with even smaller.
Yeah, with anything smaller. It has to be just connected. It has to be a closed system. There should be no leakage of any liquid. If there is a leakage of liquid, means your pressure is being transmitted there also. So then there will be a difference. It has to be a closed system. Okay. Next. So this is exactly what I was trying to say, that the force on the first one will be F1. The force on the second one is F2. In the first, the pressure is going to remain as F1 upon A1. In second, the pressure will remain as F2 upon A2. I explained you this very well. I think don't see this entire multiplication. The multiplication that I gave you is much better than this one. So you can remember that one if you have written it down somewhere. Because the pressure is same on both the ends, the force at the first end will be less because it has less area, and the force will be more at the second end because it has more area. So by giving less force, you are getting more force. That is, by giving less force, you're getting more work done. Okay, next. Chalo, any questions based on this?
No, ma'am.
Anyone, come on, any questions based on this? Because now we will be
No,
changing
ma'am.
a topic. Okay, fine. So we finished with pressure topic. We finished with what is force, what is pressure, what is atmospheric pressure, what is liquid pressure. Now we are working on the principle of friction. What is friction? Uh, in types of force, you saw that there is contact force, there is non-contact force. In contact force, you saw friction. Okay, friction was a contact force. Because of contact, the force is created. Like we also spoke about muscular force. Because of you touch something with your muscles, that thing will move. Same way, if there are two bodies rubbing against each other, okay, because of that, friction will be created. So that is what is the topic, friction. Okay, we'll go to the next slide. So friction merely comes from a word which is called as fricaire, which means to rub. Okay, and friction is happening because of a force between two surfaces that are, you know, sliding against each other, that kind of are moving against each other. So two things moving in the same direction will not create friction. Two things moving against each other, the direction is changing, that is what will cause friction. So friction will always work in opposite of the direction of the force. So if supposing the first picture shows that the man is standing and the the other man from there, he's pushing. So the force is going from left side to right side. The friction will work opposite way. The friction will work from right side to left side. Or if you're going on a cycle, you're moving on a cycle, you're going from left to right, but the friction is trying to stop you from right to left. That is why you will have to again and again keep on cycling. Just by giving one cycle, you will just not go. You'll just not go simply. There will be something that will be on the road or something which will stop you. Okay, so there is not always be in terms of, and when you go into engineering terms, this all comes into a topic, and there you talk about efficiency, the machine efficiencies. So the machine efficiencies we detect on terms of how much friction is there. If the machine does not have friction, then it is called as a 100% working machine. It will give 100% output out there. But if supposing it does, all machines will have friction because of some or the other reason, and that will reduce the productivity of it. Okay, next. So friction depends on the material. Okay, the material that is there, the friction will depend on the material, what the material is there. The more rougher the material, the more the friction will be there. As the material becomes more rougher, the friction is increasing. If the material is more smoother, the friction will be less. That is why for skating, you skate on smooth surfaces. Can you skate on rough surfaces? If you skate on rough
No,
surfaces,
ma'am.
you will understand that skating on the road and skating in the skating ring is totally different. When you're skating in the skating ring, the surface is so smooth, you can skate so easily. But when you're skating on the road is bumpy, the road is rough, and so there the friction will be more. Okay, the other thing is, if you take a book, or if you take a ball, okay, and if you have got a carpet, and if you've got a normal flooring or a wooden flooring, you try to slit both the things. When you try to slit both the things, you will see that the ball will move faster when you are on the surface, normal surface, say the wooden flooring or whatever flooring. But when it is flowing on the carpet, it will move slower because the carpet is applying friction on the ball and trying to reduce the speed of the ball. Whereas the smooth surface, that is your plain surface, your plain flooring, will apply less friction. So the speed of the ball kind of remains until it reaches to a stop. Okay. Friction also produces heat. Friction always produces heat. That is why when I go back to my example of the machines, they always consider how much friction a machine creates so that they can calculate how much heat is being produced by the machine. So how to reduce that heat? Because if a machine is working continuously for how many hours, what is the heat that the machine is producing, which will cause wear and tear of the machine. Okay, so that is also dependent the wear and tear of the machine. See, all these friction and all this you all are studying right now, but at the end when you go to see at a longer point of view, the applications are much wider. Okay, so example, you want to create friction, you can rub both your hands. If you rub both your hands, that is creating friction, and because of that friction they are getting warmer. Okay, next. So Leonardo da Vinci, somewhere around 1450s, he was there. Okay, he realized how important friction is for working of machines. He focused on all kinds of friction, and he came across the types of friction that is created. So we'll study the types of frictions, the sliding friction, the rolling friction. We'll study that. So on based of that, he gave two laws of friction. Okay, uh, that was even 200 years before even Newton said that there is something called as force. He had given the concept of friction, and he said that the friction, the area in contact, the areas in contact have no, he defined what force is. He said that the areas in contact will have no effect on friction. If the load of an object is double, the friction will also be double. Okay, so the friction is depending on 2 points. Friction is depending on area also, and friction is depending on the load also. How much object is being moved. So how much object is being moved, and how much and what is the area that is rubbing against each other. Those two things will depend. Your friction will depend on that. Okay.
Ma'am, I have a question.
Yes.
Ma'am, 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 it was Leonardo da Vinci an artist or a scholar?
So see, they all are called as scholars because they gave some or the other concept, but they could be an artist also, no? See, you could be brilliant, but you could have some drawing skills in you, or you could have some other painting skills in you also, no? So it is that way.
So, ma'am, using that two types of friction, he made the painting Mona Lisa.
Srijan, how stupid question is this? Yeah, like seriously, how stupid question? Don't want to answer this. Okay, next slide, please. Friction. So friction is basically a force that opposes the relative motion. So it is happening because of a motion between two objects. So two objects are moving in motion with each other. They are in contact. Remember, contact is important. The contact is there, and because of that, force of friction is created. Next. Examples, you all can try this example. You all can roll a ball, or you can slide a book on a normal surface and on a carpet. Okay, you can do it. Once the class is over, you can do it and see what distance the ball goes and what distance the book goes. Mind you, both the sides, your force should be the same. If the force is same, then only you can compare it. But if you're giving different forces, then probably the one with the carpet also may go the same distance. So you have to be sure that the force that you're applying on both the surfaces have to be the same. Okay, next. Okay, so there are certain properties of friction. The first property of friction says that friction is a force that always opposes relative motion. It is opposite of the motion, and we always consider relative motion because motion is happening between two objects. Okay, that's why you call it as relative motion. So force, friction is always a force that is opposite of the motion. Okay, and it will, what it will do, it will finally, it will slow down the speed of the moving object. It is, the friction is going to slow down the speed, because of which nothing is continuously moving. It will come to a stop at some point or the other. Next. Second, friction will always act direction opposite to the motion. Okay, so it will be opposite of the direction of the motion. It's the same thing. Next. Third, friction always produces heat. Okay, for example, let's consider tires of vehicles, because you must have considered, if your parents are changing the tires of the car, or even your cycle when you're riding, you will notice that when the cycle is new, or when the tire is new, it's so well, it's so good, those tires have proper notches, and there are spikes and everything is there. Eventually, as you keep on riding the cycle and the or the car, those tires, they kind of become flat. They kind of become they lose the notches and the hitches that they had. Why is that happening? Is because as and when those tires are moving, they are creating friction, and because of that friction, heat is created, and those surfaces are getting rubbed. Okay, and because of that, those tires need a change. There's a wear and tear in the tire. Okay, another example is rubbing of hands, lighting a matchstick. So what is lighting a matchstick? When you light a matchstick, there are certain chemicals that require that certain heat, and because of that heat, that matchstick will start burning. So what will happen is, when you take the matchstick and you hit it against a surface, so you don't need to hit it on the matchbox. You can hit it to some other surface also, probably, or a rough surface like a rough wall or something. Okay, all those kind of places also, when you hit the matchstick, probably the correct surface, it will light up. Okay, that same concept was used in older times, when they used to rub two two stones against each other, and they used to start a fire. So what they were doing in starting the fire, they were creating the heat. That heat was created. So always friction is creating heat. Best example to see it is, you rub your hands against each other, you will feel warm. So when you feel cold, what you do, you rub your hand and then you put your warm hands to your face. So you feel good. Okay, so this is what friction always creates heat. Next. Friction causes wear and tear. Okay, see, you can see how the shoe surfaces also becomes flat after some time. The tires become flat. The machine which is working, it is working, and it has certain belts that makes it work. So the machines are kind of connected. Okay, so because of the connection, it is connected through some kind of rubber belts. They are called as belts. Okay, so those rubber belt will make one machine move, which will cause the moving of the other part of the machine. That is how they are connected. So those rubber belts also eventually, they break or they lose its elasticity, and because of that, you can say that there is a wear and tear. So because of friction, there is wear and tear of the machine. Okay, next. Now, which forces affect friction? First thing is the smoothness of the surface. Okay, so if supposing I take a smooth surface and I take some rolling object, let's say I'm taking a chalk. Okay, and my first surface, you can see on the left side picture, is very smooth. The second picture, the blue color, you can see is rougher. So what I'm doing is, I'm taking the chalk and I'm just letting it slide on that surface. On the smooth surface, it will go a more distance. Why? Because the smooth surface is offering less resistance. less friction. Okay, as compared to that, the friction on my rough surface is much more, and so the chalk will stop somewhere halfway through, but in my smooth surface the chalk will move much ahead. Okay, so if you can see the second picture also, there was a smooth surface and there was a rough surface. So the push that you require in the force that you will require in the first picture will be less because it is smooth surface. Okay, but in the second, the surface is much rougher, so you'll require more force. Next. Okay, uh, different types of matter offer different kind of friction. Solid, liquid, gases also tend to stop things moving. Okay, those kind of things are also called as friction, but you express it in a different way. Okay, so when liquid is offering, you call it as liquid friction. When a solid is offering, you call it solid friction. When an air is offering, then you call it air friction. Okay, air resistance, basically you call it air resistance. So whenever a ship is moving in a liquid in a sea, the one side the force is coming from the propellers, or probably if it is a sail ship, it is coming because of the air that is moving, but the liquid in which it is moving, that is also making it stop. Okay, so according to that friction, you have to apply so much force that it still moves ahead. That same way, when you go on a parachute or when you are flying in the air, okay, there is air resistance. The air gives you resistance. The air is offering friction. The air is trying to stop you. Okay, and if you're writing on a board or somewhere, the board is also offering a resistance. The board itself is offering a resistance when you're writing. See, you don't realize all these small things, but it does happen in nature, and when you study those phenomena, you can kind of identify that what that phenomenon relates to. Next. More the force, more the friction. More weight causes more friction, and less the force, less the friction. So if I have a rubber ball, and if I have uh, a metal ball, okay, or if I have a plastic ball and if I have a metal ball, okay, the plastic ball, if I give it one force, it will go probably say 10 blocks, but if the metal ball, I'll give it the same force, it will go probably only two or three blocks ahead. Okay, so with the same force, if I am applying, the both the weights are different. So more the weight, more the force will be required. Okay, so if there is more weight, there is more friction. That object itself is creating friction on the surface. Let the both the surfaces be same. So if supposing on a carpet, or say on a flooring, you are taking two different balls and you're just moving it ahead in one direction, then what will happen is that the one with less weight will move much ahead, and the one with more weight will move uh, lesser distance. Okay. Now you can see in the second picture, the man is only carrying a 50 kgs box on his head, but the other man who is pushing it is pushing three things: the box on which the man is sitting, the box the man is carrying, both 50 kgs, and the weight of the man himself also. So more the weight, more will be the friction. Next.
So, ma'am, the person only has to hold the box, which is of 50 kgs, but the person who's pushing will have to push 180 kgs.
Yes, correct. Okay, any doubts up till now?
No,
Any
ma'am.
problems?
No doubts.
Okay. Now we go to the types of friction. Okay. So there are two types of friction. One is static friction. What is static friction? The static friction is when there's a friction because of the object at rest. In force, you studied objects at rest and object at motion. So when the object is at rest, it has a certain weight of himself that he is exerting on the place where he's sitting, or where that object is just static. Okay, so that is what is called as static friction. So that must be overcome to make it start moving. Okay, so once it comes into motion, then what kind of friction it will experience will be kinetic friction, because now it is moving. Now it is continuously moving. So when it is continuously moving, what it will experience will be kinetic friction. Okay, but when it is at static, when it is at rest, what you call it as static friction. Okay, so when an object is at static position, the force that you will apply will be much more than when the object is moving. So if the object is moving, it is already in motion. Now for it to move, for it to change the speed, or for it to change the direction, say left, right, you will apply less force out there. Okay, so there is static friction and there is kinetic friction. Static is because something is at rest, and kinetic friction is because something is in motion. Next. So kinetic frictions are of three types. One is what we are seeing is sliding. Okay, so when two objects are just sliding on each other. Okay, flat surfaces just sliding on each other. Okay, like you're pushing a sofa, you're pushing a box. Okay, that would be sliding friction. What is rolling? When there is a rolling action happening, let's say there are small bearing wheels or some kind of wheel kind of a structure, balls, wheels, all those round structures. When those round structures are moving, then you call it rolling. So when that rolling is happening and that thing is stopping, is what we call it as rolling friction. Okay, and what is fluid friction? Fluid friction is what is happening in any kind of a fluid. Let's say it could be in air. Air is also flowing, right? So air is also a fluid, water is also a
Yes,
fluid.
ma'am.
So whatever there is a flowing objects offer friction, that would be called as fluid friction. So you've got sliding friction, rolling friction, and fluid friction. Okay. Okay. A very important point. How do we reduce friction? You have to reduce friction, because see, normal walking, normal that, all that, okay, there we do reduce friction. We don't also need to reduce friction while work. Where we require, where there is machines, because we are dependent on machine in this industrial age, we are depending on a lot and lot of machines. So we need to keep these objects well intact so that our machines also remain well, and we can get good output from them. I told you, always we consider in engineering, we consider machine efficiency. Okay, it is called as ME, mechanical efficiency, machine efficiency. That is always considered. Okay, that is always taken, that what the machine efficiency will be. So that any machine, any working object is going to create friction. Because it is going to create friction, it is going to create it is also going to create heat. It is going to create heat. It is going to create wear and tear. So these three parts will be joined with friction. It is going to happen. So the best way to reduce it is to reduce the friction. How do you reduce the friction? The first way is by adding lubricants. So that is why we say oiling. Anytime you've observed there is noise in the door of your hinge, the door starts squeaking. What do your parents do? They will put little bit of oil in the hinges. Hinge is a machine, correct? It is a simple machine. What kind of machine? Simple machine. The hinge, it is making the door open and it is making the door close. So that machine out there, that hinge out there is friction created between the two surfaces of solids, that is closing and opening. And to reduce that, what we do is we put slight oil in that. So whenever you have seen big parts of cars also, okay, when you go to buy parts of cars, some parts of cars, they automatically come oiled only. So when you fit them, the oiling automatically is there, the new parts of the car. Okay, so that is what you have to use lubricants. You could use oil. Oil we use. There are many types of oils. They also use grease. Grease is kind of a thick, like ghee. Okay, like ghee, the solidified form of an oil. Grease it is called. Okay, we also use graphite powder. Sometimes even compressed air is also used as a lubricant, depending as per the requirement of the machine. So you use lubricants to reduce the friction. First method. Second, we use ball bearings. Now, if you see here, the wheel is working. Okay. Now, what is there is in between we've added small balls between the outer surface and the inner surface of the wheel. So the outer surface and the inner surface of the wheels, there are small balls. So those are called as ball bearing. So this whole object is called as a bearing. Okay, it is making something move. The whole thing is called as a bearing, and because it has small balls, you call it as a ball bearing. You get normal bearings also where you don't have these balls in between. When you have the balls in between, then it is called as a ball bearing. Okay, so what the small balls do, the small balls are also moving, no? So they are also helping the two surfaces, upper and inside, to move. And because of that, the balls between the outer and the inner rings, the outer and the inner rings, it is trying to move, and it is trying to reduce the friction. Okay. So where do you use these ball bearings? We use it in a lot of machines. We use it in cars to move the tires, between the steering, the connection between the steering and the wheels. There are many parts. Okay, the many parts are there. Out of those many parts, we add the bearing near the tire. So because of the turning of your steering wheel, that entire assembly is connected to the tires, where there is a bearing which will turn the tires also.
Ma'am, it's used in fidget spinners as well.
In what?
Ma'am, in fidget spinners.
Physics?
Yes, ma'am. Ma'am, I've opened a fidget spinner and seen.
Fidget spinner. Yeah. Fidget spinner. Yes. Very good. Yeah.
And
You
even
can
I have,
actually see it also in the fidget spinner. A lot of fidget spinners come open in the open structure also. You can see it in the fidget
yes,
spinner.
ma'am, I have.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
Ma'am, I've opened a fidget spinner and seen it.
Oh, next. Okay. We can also reduce friction by polishing the two surfaces. Okay. Polishing surfaces will reduce the roughness, and it will make the surface smooth. That is exactly what they would do to your skating ring surface. They will make it smooth by some kind of machines, so that the roughness of it goes away, because eventually there's going to be wear and tear. People are going to be skating out there, so there's going to be wear and tear. So they again make the surface smooth. So by even polishing, by even rubbing it with machines, you can make the surface smooth again. So by smoothing the surface, you can reduce friction. Next. Okay. By using wheels. Okay. By using wheels, you can reduce friction. Okay. So you can, best example is a car. A car is moving. Instead of walking, you get skates. So you get the skates. There is wheels in that. Instead of chairs, you've got wheeler chairs, so that it's become easy for you to move. The bags, olden times, the bags were just normal, you had to pick them. Now there are normal wheels. Now, first there were only two wheels in the bags. Okay, there used to be only two wheels, uh, where there was a handle. Now there are four wheels, and those four wheels also are totally 360 degrees turning. So there is no friction at all only out there. You can move with that bag very easily. The friction is reduced there, uh, to very much less quantity out there. Conveyor belts, the conveyor belts on which when you go to a airport, you get your bags on that conveyor belt from the flight, or when there is a machinery line, when there's an assembly line, that time also the conveyor belt, the unfinished good goes to a place where the people probably they're standing on the conveyor belt, they're trying to finish the good, then it goes into the packing. The entire factory setup kind of works on a conveyor belt system. Okay, where on the wheels there is a flat surface which just keeps on rolling. Okay, the best example of a conveyor belt you can see is those your automatic steps. Those automatic steps which you
Ma'am,
go.
moving walkway.
Ha,
Ma'am, moving walkway.
the escalators. So there are certain escalators which are in the step form. There are certain escalators which are in a flat form also. Okay, so I think I'm not sure which Dubai or Kuwait. I don't know where. Some place there is a conveyor belt right from where you get out of the plane and then you go to your immigration counter. So from there you have to just stand on that and it will straight take you to the place where you have to go next. So you don't have to nearly walk with your goods. You're just standing there and it is just moving. Okay. So all these things are working on types of wheels or rollers. Both way. Okay. Next. Okay. Very important form is when your fluids are applying friction, you are reducing it by the shape, by the symmetrical shape. So what do you do? This kind of a shape, you call it as a streamlined shape, a streamlined thing. So what you do is you keep the head of it very small, like a fish. If you see, the fish has got a very small head, okay, I have a small or a pointy head, and the body becomes large, and then again it becomes small. Okay, so your bullets, your even your planes, your fighter planes, they all have a very small start to it. So that when they are cutting through the air, when they are going through the fluid, through the air, through the liquid, the resistance that is being applied on the surface is very, because the surface is less, no? Because we said more surface, more the friction, less the surface, less the friction. So there is less surface, so the friction will be less out there. And so it is easy for any object to cut through the liquid, the liquids and the air. Okay, this kind of a shape is called as a streamlined shape. The fishes, they have got a streamlined shape. You will be probably sixth standard only you have got. What is the real shape? What is the advantage of the movement of the shape of the fish and how it helps it to move? I think there's a chapter in the sixth standard. You will be doing it. Movement of uh, animals, the streamlined shape of the fish. Okay, that is how the objects are designed. Next. Okay. You sprinkle powder, like we spoke about graphite powder, or when you're playing carom, you're applying talcum powder so that you reduce the friction. Okay, because if you play on a carom board without the powder, both the surfaces there is so much friction that the your dicer and the coins, they just don't move. But if there is a good amount of talcum powder, then it moves very easily. Okay? So you adjust the smoothness according to your need when you're playing. You can also use graphite powder also. Graphite powder also is a very good sliding material. It helps to slide things very fast. Graphite is a type of a carbon. Okay, and the bonding in that is such that it allows it to slide. Okay. Next. So this is one experiment I want you all to do. Okay, you're going to take a book. One you will be sliding it on a smooth surface, and one you will slide on a rough surface. Okay, and see how much distance what goes. Count the blocks. Probably if you have got blocks on your surface or on your carpet, you can count that. See, this is going 5 blocks, this is going 3 blocks. Or you can simply calculate the distance. You can take a measuring tape. I'm very sure you must be having measuring tape at home. You can
Yes,
take a
ma'am.
measuring tape and say that, this is on the smooth surface, it traveled 10 centimeters. On the rough surface, it is um, um, traveling only 5 centimeters. Okay. Secondly, you're going to take one book, and now we're going to take two books bundled together. Okay, take a thick book. Take a thick book, and on the same surface. Okay, so on the flooring, you on one side take a small take a thin book, and on the other side you take a thick book, and move both of them with the same force. See how much distance both are going. So one you're going to try on different surface, the same book. Second, you're going to try two different book on the same surface. And thirdly, you're going to try putting pencils below. Those pencils will work like your rollers, like your ball bearings, like your wheels. And now try to move the book and see how much it is going. Okay, see how much that thing goes and see how smoothly it goes. Okay, so these three things, you're going to try it as your homework for the friction. Next. So friction is a force between two surfaces that are sliding. If you want to reduce the friction, you make the surfaces smooth, you make the surfaces streamlined. You can reduce the force or you can reduce the contact by making the surfaces smooth. And the factors that friction depends on is the surface, that is the type of the surface, and the weight of the object. Next. Okay. Air resistance is a type of a friction between the particles. So when an aeroplane is moving, the air particles are hitting the aeroplane. So that is what is the air, how the air is giving it distance. So there are some shapes that are called as streamlines. So even the racing cars also, they also follow this streamline. So if you want for your own purpose, you can study more about streamline surface. You can search on Google about streamline surfaces. It's very interesting to study about that. Next. See, ice causes very little friction. Okay, that's why it is very easy. So that's why normally skating things, they put icy surfaces. Okay, and if you want to reduce friction in our cars, we lubricate it with oil also. And the oil is what is reducing the wear and tear of the machine, and it produces less heat also. But there is less friction produced, so there will be less heat. It is all connected. Next. Okay, so this is, you have to make aeroplanes of different shapes. Make different aeroplanes of different shapes. I'm very sure you all must be knowing how to streamline it, and you all can try it.
Yes, ma'am.
Ma'am, I can make a normal plane, a plane which wings are pointing up and one which are pointing down.
Yes, you can do. You can try it out and send us pictures.
Okay, ma'am.
Next. Okay. After this, I want you to wait for another 5 minutes. I don't want you all to leave. Any questions based on today's class?
No, ma'am.
No?
No, ma'am.
Okay. So, do you know there's some important phenomenon taking place tomorrow?
Yes, ma'am. The annual
Yes,
solar
ma'am. Solar eclipse.
Yes,
Ma'am,
ma'am.
the annual solar eclipse.
Ma'am, it is going to start from 7 a.m. and will going to end by the afternoon.
So, what is exactly happening? Can anyone tell me?